It was a warm and gentle Saturday afternoon in downtown Phoenix. The sun was shining, but it wasn't too hot. The streets were full of people. Families were holding hands and crossing the road together. Some kids were laughing and skipping along. Tourists were taking pictures next to big colorful paintings on the walls. People were buying tasty food like tacos and sweet corn from happy street vendors who called out, "Tacos, fresh and hot, and corn with cheese. Come try." But in the middle of all the fun and noise, one man looked very different. He didn't laugh, he didn't smile. He was quiet and calm. His name was Steven Seagal. He wore a dark denim jacket and strong navy blue boots. He looked cool and serious. His hair was slicked back, shiny and neat. He wore dark sunglasses that made him look like a movie star. He didn't want people to notice him. He just wanted a quiet walk. He was going to a small bookshop he used to love many years ago. Steven wasn't looking for trouble. He wasn't there for pictures or fans. He just wanted peace. But then, everything changed. Loud tires screamed on the road. A police car rushed into the street and stopped across 2 parking spots. The driver's door opened fast. A police officer jumped out quickly. His name was Marshal Trent Riker. He looked about 35 years old. He had short buzz-cut hair and a big chest. He walked like he was the boss of everything. His sunglasses showed the blue sky, but his smile showed something else. He liked to be in charge, and he liked when people were scared. People stopped and stared. Officer Marshall marched across the street. A young boy sat nearby with a skateboard. He looked scared and confused. Marshall pointed at the wall behind the boy and shouted, "You think you can paint on that wall and just sit here like nothing happened? Where's your ID?" The boy's eyes got big. He looked very scared. I didn't do anything," he said. "That was already there when I sat down. I promise." But Officer Marshall didn't listen. He didn't even look at the wall. He grabbed the boy's wrist and twisted it hard. The boy screamed, "Ouch." "You want to lie to a police officer?" Marshall said loudly. "Get up now. You're coming with me." Steven Seagal was still walking. But when he saw this, he stopped. He looked at the boy. The boy looked about 15 years old. His face was pale, and he was shaking like a leaf in the wind. Steven stepped closer and said calmly, "Hey, officer. That boy didn't do anything wrong. I saw him. He was sitting there before you even got here." Marshall turned and looked at Steven like he had been interrupted while showing off. "Excuse me," he said. Steven didn't back down. "I saw the whole thing," he said. "The boy didn't paint anything. You have the wrong person." Marshall looked Steven up and down, trying to act big. "Who are you, his dad or something?" "No," Steven said. "But I do care when someone is being unfair. That's not right." Officer Marshall let go of the boy and walked toward Steven. "Listen here, old man," he said loudly so everyone could hear. "I don't need some wannabe hero messing with my job. You better walk away before I give you a reason not to." People nearby gasped. Some stopped eating. Others pulled out their phones and began recording. Steven didn't move. He stood strong. He looked right at the officer and said, "Then do it." "What?" said Marshall, confused. "I said, go ahead," Steven repeated. "If you're going to make this mistake, then do it." The people around them went quiet. A man at the taco stand put down his spatula. The skateboard boy stood still, holding his sore wrist. People held up their phones. They didn't want to miss what was about to happen. Officer Marshall growled, "Back off." But Steven didn't move an inch. "Back off." Marshall yelled again. Steven just looked at him, calm as ever. Then Steven bent down, picked up the boy's skateboard, and gently leaned it against the wall. He turned back to Marshall and said, "You want to show off? You picked the wrong man today." Marshall's face turned red. All the times he yelled at people, all the times he scared kids, those moments were stuck in his head. His anger boiled up like a volcano. He reached for his baton. The people around gasped louder. Phones were filming from every angle now. But Steven didn't flinch. He didn't even blink. Officer Marshall pulled out the baton and swung it hard like a baseball bat. It was a wild swing. He wanted to hit Steven on the side. But Steven moved fast. He had been trained a long time ago. He was a master. In a flash, Steven stepped forward, caught the baton in midair with his hand, and twisted it sharply. Crack. Officer Marshall screamed. His wrist bent in a strange, painful way. The baton fell to the ground with a loud clang. Steven dropped the baton behind him without even looking. Officer Marshall got madder and tried to punch Steven in the face. Wrong choice. Steven turned to the side, grabbed Marshall's arm, and used the officer's own strength to slam him into a metal bus stop pole. Clang. Marshall hit the pole hard and fell to the ground with a groan. People were cheering now. "That's Steven Seagal," someone whispered. Another person shouted, "You mess with a kid, you get wrecked." Officer Marshall stood up slowly. His face was red with shame. "You're under arrest," he shouted. "For what?" Steven asked in a cold voice. "Helping a kid? Telling the truth? Defending myself." Marshall reached for his radio, but it was gone. Steven had taken it during the fight and dropped it onto the police car like trash. He walked slowly toward Marshall again. Every step was strong and sure. "Your badge is supposed to mean something," Steven said. "You're supposed to protect people, not scare them. Don't hurt them." Marshall didn't speak. "You think being mean makes you powerful?" Steven asked. "You think pushing kids and yelling at strangers makes you strong?" Marshall looked down. His hands shook. The boy picked up his skateboard and looked up at Steven with wide eyes. "Thank you, sir," he said. Steven smiled gently and patted the boy's shoulder. "Go home, kid. Be safe." The boy nodded and ran off. By now, more police had arrived. They watched the video recordings from the crowd. One of the new officers walked up to Marshall and said, "We saw everything. You're done, Riker." Marshall didn't argue. He just sat down on the sidewalk, holding his wrist. A woman handed Steven a bottle of water. "That was amazing," she said. Steven nodded. Just doing the right thing. He turned and walked away. He still wanted to visit that bookshop. The streets were full of whispers. That was Steven Seagal. He didn't even fight. He just stopped the bad guy. He was like a mountain. Nothing moved him. Steven reached the bookshop. The bell above the door jingled as he walked in. The smell of old pages and quiet peace filled the air. He smiled. It felt just like it used to. Outside, the city slowly returned to normal. People were still talking about the brave man who stood up for a kid. The videos went online and spread everywhere. But Steven didn't care about likes or views. He just wanted peace. He found a book, sat down in a cozy chair, and opened it. The world outside faded away. And for that moment, everything was just right. He took one step back. Then he took another. The backup had finally come. 2 police cars drove up fast, with their red and blue lights flashing. The tires made loud squeaking sounds as they stopped. From one of the cars stepped out a tall, strong woman. Her name was Lieutenant Helena Cruz. She was one of the few big bosses in the police department who still did the right thing. She was honest and fair. Everyone knew she cared about the truth. She looked around. There was a big crowd of people. Many of them were holding up their phones, recording everything. There was a boy sitting on the bench. He looked hurt and scared. A man named Marshall Trent Riker stood nearby, holding his wrist and looking angry. Helena saw all of this, and right away, she could tell something was wrong. "Someone better start talking," she said firmly. Right away, a bunch of people started yelling at the same time. "He hurt that kid," someone said. "He pushed Steven Seagal," another shouted. "He was trying to look cool and show off," said someone else. "Steven didn't do anything bad," someone yelled. Then a teenager in the middle of the group pointed and said, "He saved me." Lieutenant Helena Cruz looked at Officer Marshall. She asked him, "Is this true?" Marshall looked nervous. He stuttered. He assaulted me. He got in the way when I was making an arrest." Helena looked confused. "An arrest of a kid just sitting on a bench?" she asked sharply. "Is that the story you're going with?" Steven Seagal didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small camera. It was his own body camera. It was still blinking. That meant it was still recording. Steven handed it to Helena and said, "You'll want to watch this." Marshall's eyes went big. He looked very worried now. Helena took the camera. Her face didn't show any emotion. She looked calm, but no one could tell what she was thinking. She walked away from the crowd and went to her police car. She plugged the camera into a small screen inside. The people around her formed a loose circle. Everyone was quiet now. The air felt heavy, like just before a big storm. Officer Marshall stood nearby. He looked stiff and tense. He was holding his sore wrist. His face twitched. He knew the truth was about to come out. "You've made a mistake, Cruz," Marshall said. He tried to sound strong. "That man attacked a police officer." Helena didn't say anything. She was watching the video. Right from the beginning, it was clear what happened. The video showed Marshall walking up to the teenager in a mean way. His voice was loud and bossy. He asked the boy for his ID, even though he had no reason to. Then Marshall shoved the boy. He twisted the boy's wrist. The boy cried out in pain. Then, Steven came into the video. He was calm. He told Marshall to stop. But Marshall didn't listen. He shoved Steven. Then he swung his baton wildly. Steven moved fast. He didn't hurt anyone, but he stopped Marshall in a smart way. He used a safe martial arts move to take control without causing harm. Everything the people said had been true. Lieutenant Helena Cruz's mouth became a straight, thin line. Her face looked cold now. She was not happy. She took the camera out of the screen. Then she turned to the other police officers who had come with her. "Cuff him," she said loudly. Marshall looked shocked. "What?" he said. "You are not a police officer anymore," Helena said. "You are off duty. Right now." Marshall looked confused. "You hurt a kid," Helena said. "You lied in your report. You made a peaceful moment turn into something dangerous." Two officers walked up to Marshall. He tried to grab his radio. But then he remembered. Steven had already taken it and thrown it away. "Don't touch me," Marshall yelled. He waved his arms, trying to keep the officers away. But before he could move again, Steven stepped in front of him. Steven looked him right in the eyes and said, "You think you're still the boss?" Marshall froze. "You stopped being in charge the moment you forgot that a badge doesn't make you a king," Steven said, his voice quiet but strong. This time, Marshall didn't say anything. His face changed. The pride and anger were gone. He looked scared. The officers put handcuffs on him. They led him to the back of the police car. And then something surprising happened. The whole crowd started clapping. They weren't clapping because someone got arrested. They were clapping because someone brave, Steven, stood up for what was right. Steven didn't smile. He didn't wave. He didn't want attention. He just turned to the boy still sitting on the bench. "Let's get you home," he said softly. The boy nodded. Just then, a news reporter came running through the crowd. She was holding a microphone. "Mr. Seagal, you're famous again. Millions of people are watching this right now. Do you have anything to say?" Steven looked at the camera, then at the boy next to him. He thought for a moment, and then he said, "Real strength isn't about how hard you hit. It's about how many people you protect when no one else will." Then he turned and walked down the sidewalk. The boy walked beside him, holding his hand. 1 week later, the news was everywhere. Steven Seagal stops a bad cop in an amazing rescue. Bodycam shows Steven was telling the truth all along. Police officer fired for hurting a child and lying about it. People on the internet were cheering for Steven. They called him a hero. People who fight for justice said the video showed why cameras and truth are so important. As for Marshall Trent Riker, he was in big trouble. He was no longer a police officer. He was being taken to court. He would be judged for hurting a child, for lying, and for using his badge in the wrong way. It was going to be a very serious trial. Everyone would be watching. Far away from all the cameras and reporters, in a quiet little town called Phoenix, Steven was in his peaceful dojo. A dojo is a place where people learn martial arts. It's where they learn how to protect themselves and others. Steven stood beside the same boy he had saved. "Okay," Steven said. "Stand with your feet like this. Balance your weight." The boy tried to copy the move. He wobbled a bit, but kept trying. "Are you sure you want to learn?" Steven asked. The boy grinned. "If it helps me be like you, then yes." Steven smiled, but gently shook his head. "It's not about being like me," he said. "It's about not letting fear tell you what to do." Then they began again. Slow moves, careful steps, deep breathing. No one was watching. There were no phones, no reporters, no noise. Just a man teaching a boy how to be strong, calm, and kind. There were no badges, no applause, only peace, only learning, and a quiet reminder. When you mess with the wrong person, there can be big consequences, especially when that person is Steven Seagal. Did you enjoy the story? I'd love to hear what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you had fun, make sure to subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss the next adventure. Thanks for being here, and as always, stay curious, stay bold, and keep exploring.